So, Rudy, how is quarantine treating you? A whole 3 miles away from me.
Wow. Okay. Well, now what is it? The fourth week? The fourth week, right?
Well, it's like the third going into the fourth. Yeah.
Third going to fourth. I gotta say, it is way better now than than like week one and two. Week
Hmm.
one and two, I was like getting ready to kill myself. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's not a good joke. But seriously, I was
Whoa. Oh, excommunicado.
I was
Yeah.
very having a hard time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What
I
about you?
Well, here's the thing. You're in a different position than I was because first off, thank you everybody for your prayers. My darling fiance caught COVID-19, and it played out like a bad pneumonia,
Mm.
and we're very very happy that she didn't have to go to the hospital. But seeing it in real time and close up was obviously a really really crazy thing because nobody knew what it all entailed at that point. This happened pretty much in week one of quarantine. So you know, so thank you everybody for praying. Jen is pretty much almost officially out of the dark. What happens is you need a double negative test in order to get it all out.
Hmm.
First one came back, it's not detected. We'll see how the second one goes. But the nice thing is that this means she has immunity, which means if anyone wants some coronavirus blood and antibodies, then we can sell it up to the highest bidder and support the Glad Child podcast dank meme habit.
That's funny.
I didn't get anything, which is interesting. So I hear that a lot of people are asymptomatic. So maybe I have antibodies too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got swabbed just for the heck of it a couple days ago because now testing is becoming a little more readily available.
How is that,
Um,
Jordan? Like, what's the test like? Do they really jam it up your nose?
Yeah, okay. So the answer, it seems to me, is well, the answer is yes. They do jam it up your nose, and your mileage may vary, is what I've learned. So my guy, I went right down the block for me as an urgent care, and I just went. And the reason I did it isn't because I have any symptoms, because if you don't have any symptoms, they won't take it. But I was like, I need some work clearance so I can actually work again. So I had a doctor just kind of do a swab, and it does go up your nasal cavity. So it goes like here, it feels like it's gonna scratch your brain. But it
Like when
was
you
in there
pick
only,
your nose too hard? Does it feel like
yeah.
that?
Well, it's like that, but it's not as satisfying, right? Because there's a moment of regret after. Don't give me that look. You started it.
Oh.
No, but it was 2 seconds of kind of uncomfortable for sure, but it didn't hurt. And then he took it right out, and apparently you get the results in 2 to 10 days, and it lets you know if you have a detection of one of the two popular strains or if you don't. So
Oh,
we'll
interesting.
find out.
So
But I got it.
it's like mummification. They're like jamming it in there, trying to get your brain out with the hook.
I always knew you were going to squeeze mummification in sometime, but I didn't know what you were going to use. uh, as you can imagine, I'm sure that you've been getting kind of a lot of cabin fever though for this whole experience, right?
Yeah, I have actually. But the reason why it's gotten better is because I've been able to go into work 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't lose my job or anything.
Thank
Hopefully,
God.
hopefully it stays that way for now. I'm just kind of working from home. But since I work in a studio, I can't bring any of the product home. I can, but since it's so expensive, like every day I'm shooting maybe $10,000 or plus worth of product, I'd rather not bring it home with me. So what I do is I do is I check in, clock in during work and
Mm-hmm.
clock out, go to lunch, go to lunch.
That's right. Just like walk 10 feet to the kitchen.
Yeah, and 2 days a week I go into the studio, and it's really interesting. They have given us like clean suits, like clean room suits, and
Mm-hmm.
masks and gloves and all kinds of stuff so that we don't get sick. But in reality, it's like less than a skeleton crew. It's
Yeah.
maybe 5 or 6, maybe 10 people at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've taken precautions too, where our particular studio is interesting because it has, I think there's 7 people in the studio at one time, and we're secluded. We're off in our own little building, and
Yeah.
which is cool because we don't have to hear everybody's like terrible music. Uh, uh,
Well, it looks like that's a plus.
yeah, it's a plus. But
No, no Ariana Grande for you.
yeah, and so when we started to go back, we decided we're going to stagger the schedules so that only one person is in the studio at a particular moment in time in the day.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I have the studio to myself, and now I blare my bad music. You know.
Is it 17 different renditions of Ave Maria, or
Yeah, the
you know?
vaporwave version of Ave Maria. Just kidding.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's toasty.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, for those who are watching, if you haven't already, please go ahead and like. If you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Every little click, every little like, every little share really helps us. If we get up to 100 subscribers, we can actually start doing community posts, which will let us give better notification for live streams and that sort of thing. So, and of course, we're going to try to make sure that this podcast is available afterwards, and you can see that pretty much every place a good podcast is sold, including buzzsprout.gladtradpodcast.com. But then you can go to iTunes and Spotify, iHeartRadio, all these different places, and see more of us. And I want to mention real quick, because I'm very proud of myself, for the first time ever, I have a Twitter. And by I have a Twitter, I mean GladTrad Podcast has a Twitter. So if you want to, you can follow us along there at GladTrad Podcast. And I was so happy that was still open, because Twitter tried to give me like Trad Glad first. And I was like, Jack Dorsey has a thing out for us. So
no.
I was like, no, it's not going to work. Let me tell you the nice thing about quarantine on my end, aside from the fact that for a couple of weeks, this place really was like the, remember the bubble scene at E.T., right? Where it's like all the scientists come to take him away, and it's just like a quarantine zone to the max.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that movie.
You've never seen E.T.?
No.
Can I get some F's in the chat, please?
Yeah, seriously. Sorry.
And we could do that.
I know what E.T. is, but I've never seen the movie.
Real quick, actually, before we continue, I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for commenting. If you have any questions too, we'd love to hear them. It's hard because it goes by so fast, but believe me, we love every little bit of interaction. Hello, Joel Wee 1028. It's true. You don't have to have your coworkers complain about terrible music. Michael, how's it going, dude? Thank you so much for the compliment. Happy you're here. Grace, my dear Genevieve is on her YouTube this time, so she doesn't have to sabotage mine anymore. Shane, of course, how's it going? You better believe that is our St. Vitus flag. Over here is the flag of our church, St. Vitus, and to the right is the papal flag. So it's a nice combination.
Filthy papist.
Filthy papist. I love that word. I love papist. It throws people off. People are like you'll be praying at lunch, and your non-Catholic friends and coworkers will be like, "What is that?" And you're like, "I'm a filthy papist." And they don't quite know how to take that. So what I was gonna say is, so obviously this whole quarantine coronavirus thing. By the way, apparently we can't say coronavirus with YouTube. If we were monetized, would demonetize us. So I'm going to say the thing. Yeah, I've been learning a little bit. So
what if you say like the Wuhan or something?
The Wu flu?
Yeah, the Wu flu. Say it fast, so it's like Wu flu.
Wu flu. Yes, because it comes fast. It goes fast. All right. What I was going to say, this is something nice. Maybe you've noticed this in your neighborhood, Rudy. But because people are getting cabin fever and they're also out of the job, what people are doing is there are a lot more walks with families and with their kids. And so even though I live across from John Burroughs High School, it's really nice. I take like a walk in Burbank, and Jen and I take walks. And what we see is there are a lot of families and their kids and their dogs out, just walking, just having some genuine time together. And I've been with Jen and I have been mapping out Burbank little by little, like different streets, just kind of around the house, just for a little walk. So it's actually really nice. That's one positive I'll say about this whole thing. Is I think that families are kind of having some more time together, and I'm noticing that there's an uptick, which is cool.
That is pretty wholesome. I don't suggest you do this because I think it's going to get worse and people are going to not allow you to do it anymore. But Ashley and I have been taking little road trips, and we mostly stay in the car, so. But we went to Death Valley the first week that it was like stay at home, and we're like, I can't stay home. but we drove up there. It's like a 3 or 4 hour drive, and just the whole trip there and the whole trip back, we had some really wholesome conversations and just kind of talk to each other. I mean, we talk to each other all the time. We don't have like That hasn't disintegrated at all or anything. It's just it was different because we didn't really have anything else distracting us. You know, like there's no
Yeah.
work. Well, at that moment, there was no work. There was like
Right.
no, traffic or, we weren't tired or anything. Like we're well rested. We're just sitting at home. So, but yeah.
I, I can actually completely relate to that. Again, one positive is I was walking down the street the other day, and what I heard is a family inside their house had, I assume, built a haunted house because you could hear like the scream of the kids and some and like there was like some thunder effects. It was really really cute. Jen and I were walking, and
Wait,
we
recently?
yeah, like as in like earlier this week. Wait, why? What are you snickering about?
A haunted house in like March?
Oh, look, man, the world's gone topsy turvy in a very short amount of time. So, what's nice about it is, yeah, there is more time to really enjoy each other's company.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we play. Okay, so I have to give a, it's like I talk about my fiance like I love her or something, but Jen is a master at Scrabble. I've never known someone to win so ruthlessly as she does. Words that I didn't even know existed. And so we've been playing a lot of Scrabble, which is a really, really good relationship strengthener, by the way. Because if you can stay together after 5 rounds of Scrabble where your fiance destroys you, you can probably stay together through anything, is my guess.
That's the new prerequisite for marriage.
I honestly think that if for pre-Cana, if priests were like, how many rounds of Scrabble have you guys played? And the answer was you haven't played any. Yeah, the church shouldn't allow you guys to get married.
What if you don't know how to read?
You wanna admit something? You wanna, since confessions, since you can't go to confession anymore, you want to confess here?
I can't read.
Hmm.
Ooh, I wish I had a nice beverage with me.
Oh
The
yes,
only
the
thing I
Glad Club
have is,
podcast is still brought to you by Aquafina.
should I drink this Epiphany water?
Okay, so no, you got to save the Epiphany water. That is as hot of a commodity as toilet paper.
Look, yeah, I'm almost halfway through it.
Well, mine is my bottle I gave to my parents because I love them and I honor my father and mother.
Hmm.
Just letting you know.
Oh, since we're in video format now, I can do a little show and tell, guys. From our pipe episode, I can show
Oh
you
no! Yes, yes, yes.
what my first pipe looks like. That is my little pipe, my
There
bulldog
she
pipe.
is, Miss America.
She's gorgeous. I just stained her a little bit more. So
So for
how'd that
those that
go?
don't know, Rudy essentially has
Here's
a
another
small
one.
business on the side restoring pipes.
This one's from Ireland.
Oh, beautiful.
This is my newest one. And this one I just got in the mail and it's in the works.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I am not keeping
I
this one.
want to. I don't have nearly as robust of a collection, but I want to share it because I feel left out. So I'm going to put my headset down
All
and
right.
just walk over for 2 seconds. Because while you have more pipes, I'm proud of mine. So I just have like,
Ooh.
your typical.
Look, here's the other plus of, why you should get married, people.
Why should you get married,
First
Rudy?
off, because it's a sacrament. But second off, because I just got a frosty beverage from Ashley, who's in the other room. Thank you, babe.
Wow. Okay. So I want to say, that
Ooh.
that makes me sad because
Oh my.
Jen is in the other room, but she hasn't gotten me a frosty beverage. What does that mean?
Hmm.
Hmm.
It
So much for
just
my Scrabble
Yeah, it
compliment.
doesn't pass the Scrabble test, bro. I'm
Ooh,
sorry.
man. Oh, looks like counseling. We're not even married. This is my favorite pipe. I just want to show everybody because obviously we have some of our subscribers are actually really big pipe enthusiasts, and so my favorite pipe is this Church Warden one, which is essentially the one that Gandalf and Bilbo smoke in Lord of the Rings. So it's the nice thing about having a longer stem too is that it's a cooler smoke. So if you're kind of new to pipe smoking and uh, and you want to and you want to kind of not experience the whole bite of the basilisk just yet, this is a really good way. It's because it's a longer stem though. It's a really really thick bowl or long bowl, deep bowl. English is hard, and it's a very fast kind of smoke. It usually takes about maybe like 70% the time from maybe like one of Rudy's pipes, a little bit more. But I recommend it. It's very very good.
Chat's like, who cares about pipes?
Oh, who cares about pipes? Shout out to chat. How are we doing? Grace, hello. Good to hear from you. Felix, riding a tandem bicycle together is a true test of integrity of any relationship.
Truly,
That actually is true.
I would love to do
Uh,
that.
Joel wants us to know that drink something with at least 60% alcohol to kill the woo flu, but not too much. Just enough to almost turn you blind, but not quite.
Yeah, I have some of that. I have some Irish moonshine.
Okay. I had some New Mexican moonshine.
Yep.
Would not recommend. It is like paint peeler.
Mm.
So what I think is important also is the fact that this is the first time in our lives, as far as I remember, for not weather-related purposes in my life, that mass is like gone in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're very, very blessed to be at a church that has a good live stream mass. And if you're a subscriber and you're looking for a mass, go to livemass.net. Shout out to the Fraternity of St. Peter and to our own priests. And there are a lot of churches all over the world which put on the Latin Mass in live stream format. So if you want kind of a break from whatever other mass you should be watching at this point, that's a perfect time. There's actually mass in an hour at 7 o'clock our time, which we are going to watch. So and participate in as best we can, of course. So livemass.net is what you want to do.
And since there's nobody there, it's not a dialogue mass. So nobody's accidentally saying anything out loud.
You know what's nice? Let me tell you one thing that's nice about live mass, live stream mass. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. Maybe it's been yours too, but I just want to hit it real quick. You know, in the St. Michael prayer, I can feel the comma. St. Michael the Archangel, and then everyone should come in with defend us in battle.
Mm-hmm.
But what you get is you get St. Michael, and then you get a sputtering of the Archangel.
St. Michael the Archangel.
Oh, so have you been coping all right? Because I got to tell you, the first week when it went from okay, well, masses might be able to be had, just keep a social distance, to there is no mass, but there's still confession and the other sacraments, to there is essentially no sacraments unless it's a state of emergency, whatever that means. It was hard for me, man. I mean, and for a lot of people, I could tell, it was just like having our souls ripped out for a second.
Yeah, I agree, because I think a lot of people were concerned, not me included. I continue to be concerned because when does it end?
Yeah.
When is it going to be okay for us to get on with our life? I think it's the same question that people are asking in regard to the economy. They're asking, okay, well, we can't just shut down the economy for 2 months. It's going to be irreparably damaged. Yeah, what do we do? But at the same time, then people are thinking about, well, how many people are going to die? And then a couple days pass, and then it turns out that like people are saying that maybe the original idea, the original model maybe isn't correct, and I don't know what the right answer is. All I know is that it sucks.
I got to tell you, I can't. This is the time, I think, for a lot of people when they realize if they have a good priest or a good shepherd or a bad shepherd. And I will give credit where credit is due. I'm very much fond of Archbishop Gomez's prayer for the time of coronavirus. I think that was very, very appropriate, and it was very well written. And then I gotta hand it to Father Fryer and Father Masudi at St. Vitus, because they did everything that they could while still maintaining obedience to this whole situation. So Father Fryer, one thing that he did was when we couldn't go to Mass anymore, for confessions, he actually set up confessionals outside. And so the screen was far enough away that it would have been the social distancing standards. And we still had confessions until, that we're told that was no longer possible. He's done, the live stream has picked up. And now it's nice to see that the Scola for choir is coming back with their social distance. There are altar servers again, which is nice. And also, in case anyone is really kind of seen, they've been really proactive with St. Vitus. So a lot of stuff, repairs and replacements and kind of furthering the progression of the church's interior and exterior have been this is like the perfect time for them to get a lot of maintenance and improvement done, which they have been. Mm-hmm. So I remember the last homily, he said before the Sunday before we couldn't go to mass anymore was very powerful, and he said, "Everybody needs to chill out." And it's always nice when you hear a priest say those words, but I think it's true. It's funny because for the first time in our lives, what we assume is everywhere, the mass is just everywhere. There are multiple times for the mass. You know when confession times are at 4 different parishes around and everything. It's like the heart of what makes life worth living, the source and summit of the Christian life, is just gone. And it's not come through through bloodshed, right? Which is, it's not come through red martyrdom. It's come because of cooperating for the sake of plague, and whether that's good or that's bad. I'm very, very happy that a lot of priests, especially ours, have been doing the best they can by offering the mass live and allowing us to still participate in it.
It's awesome when you tune in. I like watching the mass live because I know that I'm uniting myself to that sacrifice that's still taking place. And I wish I was there,
Yeah.
but I can be there with my heart as it's happening, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity that we have. Yeah, I was talking to Ashley the other day. I think it was very providential if you look at it. A few months ago was when live mass was launched officially, or maybe
Mhm.
finalized, or something like that. And
Yeah.
then maybe a month or two after, then this whole thing happened, and just imagine what it would be like without having the opportunity to tune into a mass like that. I don't know if I don't know. It's, you know, maybe not worth even getting into, but I think it's enhanced my stay at home, to be able to tune into mass and, still retain some sort of normalcy throughout all of
Yeah.
this.
Regimentation is important, obviously, for the life of a Catholic, and it's hard. But one thing that Catholics across who are walking, into a more devotion in their faith, we all do is it's like every Sunday you have to go to mass. What this has done is this has taken that kind of Sunday regimentation that at this point it's just drilled into us. It's
Mm-hmm.
like even if you're in a state of mortal sin, like even when I'm in a state of mortal sin, I'm like, well, I can't go to mass today. Every time there have been moments where I've had a dispensation because of work or inability, and but the answer is every time I'm like, man, all I want to do is go to mass. My days are just devoid of it, and since I live so close for Monday and Wednesday and Friday mass, it's like it's gone. But now it's like, okay, 7 o'clock every day, is mass, and I got to structure my day so that, especially since I'm working from home, so I can really prepare myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been dressing up for mass. I've been, I put out like a little stand with like the holy water and like the missal and all that kind of stuff. I oftentimes, I'm reading Imitation of Christ, so like that'll be kind of my meditation to prepare for it.
Good.
I was at
Do you
this
are
last.
you able to use your TV now?
So yeah, Exodus has essentially ended.
Yeah, Exodus ended a long time ago for me.
Yeah, but then I got to tell you, but this is also there's a meme that Jen sent me, and that's it. This is the lentiest Lent that was ever lented, and it won't relent. Oh yeah, shout out to Dr. Pepper.
No, I'm pointing to it because Exodus ended a long time ago.
Oh, I see. Yeah, man. Some people just have no self control.
Ugh. Sorry, guys.
But don't you feel like out of all Lents that you've experienced, wherever you've been in your walk with Christ, this has got to be the most pedal to the metal reality of what it was like when Christ was placed in the tomb.
Yeah, I think it's challenging me to be even more intentional with my prayer life, with just paying attention to what I'm doing, paying
Yeah.
attention to your thoughts and all kinds of things. Because we just don't have the ability to just go into confession anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to
Ain't that
live.
something?
It's like my mom talks about, the most important thing that you could ever do is be flexible, to be adaptable. And this is forcing me to be really adaptable to the point where, like, okay, now I have to really take a look at my life and make sure that I'm not committing any sort of mortal sin, any sort of venial sin. Like, I'm trying, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
hard, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
This is
this Lent is
I'm
very
I'm
interesting.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I've been thinking about this, but you've of course read and been reading Bishop Athanasius Schneider's book, Christus Vincit,
Hmm.
and you know when he talks about what it was like getting to mass.
Dude, talk about providence too, because at the beginning of the book is him talking about how like, well, we didn't have the sacraments.
Yeah.
We were just living in exile, trying to get
Did you
by.
did you ever see Silence?
Yeah, I did. Not a fan of
We
that
won't
movie,
talk.
but
The
yeah.
ending. The ending's a hot piece of garbage. But up until the ending, I thought was. But one thing about that movie that's very good is the heroics of, you know, those poor Japanese peasants keeping the faith alive when there just isn't a priest and there isn't
Hmm.
mass, and they don't and they know it. It's not like they started their own weird religion. There was nobody there to do the sacraments, and they kept that. No confession, no Holy Communion, that sort of thing. And I'm so impressed when I think about the history of Catholicism all over the world because we've had it so easy for so long.
Yeah.
And so when you know when we choose not to go to mass or choose not to go to confession or choose to tune out of our faith, it's not that the church isn't there, it's that we have the choice just to walk away from it. And
Yeah.
now it's like, well, suppose that you don't have the church now. Suppose that you don't have the Eucharist in the same way. And of course I'm not downplaying spiritual communion, quite the opposite. But we know what it's like to be physically just the proximity of being close to God, you know? It really is devastating. This is why it really feels like an absurd Lent. It's a Lent to remember, I
It's
think.
gonna be the title of our next movie, A Lent
That's right,
to
a Lent to
Remember.
remember. Greatest Lent ever told.
Yeah. Oh man.
uh,
Yeah,
do you
the
think it'll
other
end soon?
no, I don't think so. I think
Oh,
we're in it for another month or so.
ooh, you think that long, huh?
So yeah, but do you know what I was thinking the other day? Uh, During mass, there was a. Let me see if I could find this photo. It was. Let's see if I have the date. I don't have the date, but anyway, it was an offertory prayer. I think it was last week. Um,
Hmm.
and the offertory prayer was, "Upon the rivers of Babylon, there we sat and wept when we remembered thee, O Zion." And I was just thinking, man, this is me
Ooh,
and the boys right now because we have our thread
that's
going.
that's yeah.
And I'm just thinking about, man, I remember when I could go to mass and, just kind of just have a normal life, drive to St. Vitus and just go in and go to mass and be a normal person.
You know what's funny is this is gonna sound so bad, but I think everyone understands this. When you have, I think about this with sin, right? Mortal sins and venial sins. Because if there's one thing about it's very funny about our human life, but we know this. We are like, okay, you know, there are some sins which like you do them on a whim and you're like, oh crap, and there are other sins which definitely have some premeditation, where you can tell the devil's fighting and you allow yourself to give in. And what's funny is that in the back of your head, after such moments, you're like, okay, well, there's always confession Saturday. Now, of course, you can't game the system. You can't go, I'm going to sin because I'm going to go to confession, and it's fine.
Yeah,
But the
that
point
that
being
would
is
be
like that's
that would be presumption.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that invalidates the sacrament. Fun fact.
Yep.
But one thing that's interesting is that that's actually part of the hope and the humility that you should have to go into confession. It's like, okay, well, I know what I've done is wrong, and I need to get right with God. And this is the time, this is the method in which it's going to be done. Now it's confession only in the case of emergency, which is brought up. Father Frey had a really, really good homily about perfect contrition not too long ago,
Hmm.
which is completely true, of course. But yeah, it's brought up the fact of what would you do if you now just don't have access to the sacraments willy nilly, and it's of course it's the heart of a huge slew of things the Wuflu is doing, but yeah, it's heart wrenching, and I'm seeing like chats talking about this a little bit, but yeah, I think so. I think that people are longing for the return. People are longing for the return of the King, and I think it really is gonna make us more grateful Catholics because I already am like I'm like wow I would really die for the mass, like
Yeah.
literally if this was a scenario and it was, hey, we're going to keep going and having mass even if the authorities don't want it to, I'd do it. I'm willing to risk whatever that means
Me
for the
too.
sake of my soul and the soul of my family.
Hmm. Because I I don't know. I think that the potential could be there. I think the possibility is there for people to say, "Oh, well, people shouldn't gather around for mass anymore."
Yeah.
And then what are we going to do? We're going to lose our life.
Nothing makes me more upset than essential businesses open. So, I've gone to the
Oh
grocery
man.
store and all that kind of stuff. But I'm looking in Italy. This is big, right? Because Catholicism is, even if in a lot of ways it's Catholicism is way more cultural, so to speak. Um, but there's like, I was listening to the story of this old priest who did a procession, and it was a procession maintaining social distances. But he was like, "Yeah, I'm taking the Eucharist where it belongs, out to the people, out to the streets." And he was cited. And there was another story of people, a priest offered mass, and people were outside the doors, just dying to get in or to be as close to God as they could. And the police came and shut it down. And I was like, man, not since. I was like, I'm reminded of. Can you imagine when the Italian Revolution uh, went ahead and just like the Papal States was lost, and just like having such a clear moment of the state. In America, when we talk about separation of church and state, people forget the inverse, which is that the state has no right to infringe
Mm-hmm.
on the matters of the church, and but they do all the time, and that would be one of the cases where
That's
you're
what it
like,
really means.
yeah, like the state has absolutely no right to tell you that mass isn't essential, because not only is it essential, it's the most essential. It is the reason, in fact, if you read a book like How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization, one of the arguments is that the Western civilization revolves around the Mass. The entirety, like Christendom is a real concept, and its entire structure is around the transubstantiation of our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And for Catholics, I think this is now going to internalize it because we don't have it.
Anthony's bringing up a good point. He says that think of all the Eucharistic abuses that have been minimized. I agree.
God be praised.
God be praised.
I think so. What do you think?
Joking around though, there I did see a Novus Ordo mass televised, and they put up some felt banners into this place that didn't have it before.
No, you actually saw that?
Yeah, they brought in felt banners to this chapel that didn't have it before,
No way.
which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway,
Just kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, there's actually, Anthony makes a very good point. And one thing that's very funny to think about is, I've been reading a couple articles on how this is, as we talked about a couple years ago with the Summer of Shame. Our Lady sometimes uses, we know that Christ sometimes purges the church with holy fire, and nothing happens without a reason. And I think that this whole Wu flu thing is a perfect example of, it's not the Black Death in terms of lethality, in terms of what it's doing, but it's a good example of telling us memento mori.
Mm-hmm.
On Ash Wednesday, they say, "You are dust, and unto dust you shall return," but we don't really think about our mortality, because we live in a society where people just don't die, right? When people die, they're shunned away, but you don't really, look at our top killers, the fact that we have substance abuse, car accidents, and suicide, are three of our top contenders, means that, yeah, there's preventative measures. You don't think about it like that. This is a perfect example of asking genuinely, where are you with God? Like, seriously, when you don't have your job, when you don't have, when you potentially don't have your family because of how the Wu Flu's raging, when you don't have the Mass, where do you and your soul sit?
Now people are being forced to ask themselves that question.
Yeah, and I think it's, again, it's abrupt, but I think that God understands how He made us, and this is the best way that we understand, is being smacked in the face about this. I really hope it doesn't last for another month, though.
I hope so. Because, this week I got a little frustrated. Not because of, because of the Mass, obviously, but other things like, oh, I need to get this particular thing, and I can't go to the store, and if I order it online, it's going to take a month to get here. And it's like, man, I hate this.
Yeah.
um,
Grace says it's basically time out for us.
It is time out.
This is actually that would be the worst punishment. Can you imagine? This is life goals, parent goals. You want to be able to tell your kids, okay, look, if you don't sit down and do your homework, I'm not letting you stay for the second mass.
But I don't wanna. I don't want to do it.
You're going to the Norvis order with Grandma.
Oh, that
Yikes.
that is, yeah, that would be, yeah,
Torture. Do
that
you
would be
believe this?
torture.
Do you believe that? So, do you believe that this is going to further the revival of the restoration, so to speak, something
I
like this?
I don't know. Maybe if people are tuning in, if for some reason, maybe divine providence, they happen to be watching the stream, or they ran into livemass.net and they're like, "Wow, what is this? This is
Hmm.
Catholic," you know? And they're like,
I,
"Whoa, this is crazy."
I think it's going to. I think what it's going to do, what I hope it does, is I hope it rekindles the understanding of Eucharistic processions, for instance,
Mm,
amongst people. Because that, for me, that has been some of the most powerful imagery to come out. Like a single priest,
mm,
he's not trying to get in trouble, but he's also doing what God commands of him, taking, the sacrament to the people, and people on the balconies in Italy and all these other places making the sign of the cross, bowing as this priest goes through the streets. There was again to this story of this older priest. The police walked up to him while he was doing his thing, and they were like, "Hey, you need we need to see your papers. We're gonna have to give you a citation." And he was like, "Well, I'm holding the precious, sacraments, so I'm not gonna." He's like, "So take it from my pockets, like do what you gotta do, but I'm not letting this go." And I was like, that is a heroic man of God right there. That is something that we are all called to be.
Can you imagine at the end of your life, you're at the judgment in front of Jesus, and he's like, "Hey, did you realize like what you did? You I was right in front of you right there, and you just pretended like I wasn't there." I mean,
Ooh, I've I've
sorry.
always I've always thought about when Christ says, to people who say, "Yeah, Lord, I knew you." He goes, "I do not know you."
Yeah, can you imagine
Isn't that
hearing
the
that? Like, I
icy
never
thing?
knew
Yeah.
you. It's like, oh,
Ooh.
yeah, who do you
Yeah,
turn
I'm
to
getting.
then? There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I'm getting my. Hey, hello, Chris Marino. Thank you so much for watching our live stream, our broadcast. We very much appreciate this. He says this time of live stream masses has actually contributed to some people dipping their toes in the Latin Mass. That is true, and one of the examples, of course, is that a lot of people are asking, where do I go for the Mass now? So in my own family, I can
Hmm.
tell you that my parents, of course, been watching EWTN, and thank God for something like EWTN in a time like this, obviously. Um,
They're
but I
pretty
was like,
solid.
yeah, they're pretty solid, and I think that there'll be a lot of really as things change and shift, Um, but EWTN's done some live mass or some Latin mass streams, of course, and they've had Father Friar's been on with them certainly enough times. So yeah, I think I've told my parents about livemass.net. Told my little sister not too long ago, um, and yeah, I think this does because most likely your parish, like your personal parish, probably doesn't have the setup for live streaming. Um, it's not hard to live stream, but like the real kind of solid footwork to do it does take a little bit of know-how, and that's okay
It
because
took us like what, an hour to figure out how to work this out.
yeah, and we're still figuring out all the kinks, right?
Yeah.
Because there's we can start playing with elements and stuff later.
Hmm.
OBS is a good software, but it's not what I'm completely used to.
It's a learning curve.
Uh,
It's a whole new
it's a
program.
learning
Yeah.
curve. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, I
So.
think that's right. And what's nice is that because I think a lot of people are looking for the heroic Catholics at this time period too.
Hmm.
So there's this interest in Catholics actually doing heroic things, and by heroic, oftentimes I mean like sometimes things are in violation of certain protocols on society currently. I'm
Do
not saying
you
you should do it, by the way.
do you
Governor Newsom didn't hear from me. Did you
do
did
you
you hear what? I'm sorry, real quick. Did you hear what Garcetti said? That it's like you've heard the saying, "Stitches, snitches get stitches," but with us, snitches get rewards.
uh,
Ah, ah.
yeah, I'm gonna report all the people walking around. I don't know if there's anybody walking around right now.
You turn around. Let's see.
There's nobody on the
Oh,
street.
ooh,
Just the
well.
the solitary cone here.
Report the cone.
Yeah, I'm gonna report the
Glendale
cone.
police will take care of that.
I could
Raise their
use
flag.
could use a couple extra bucks, Mr. Newsom.
That's right. Hey, have your government check arrived yet?
No, not yet. I was gonna buy a dog with it, but I'm not sure yet. But hey, do you think that maybe all of this suffering that we have to endure of not being the mass, not having the mass available for us to go to, do you think that maybe we're being called to suffer? Like this is penance for the world. Like we have to like suffer a little bit for the world, you know? Like,
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about Mother Nature here, people. I'm talking about souls, eternal souls.
well, you know what? I am going to bring Mother Nature into this in one way. The answer is I think that that's a very interesting take, and I would agree with it. And the reason why is because we haven't this next decade we're going to really start feeling the effect of the evil which we've let go on. and and one thing that's we have to talk about seriously is that when you have things like paganism inside the Vatican, when you have things like sex abuse cover up of children and teenagers, and when you have the enormous amount of financial scandal and ruin to the glory of God and His Church, yeah, this is something that the laity. It's not. I'm not saying it's complicity like God's going to hold against you being a devout Catholic. Obviously, that's silly. But yeah, this is something that sometimes you have to understand that the sins of the Father affect or become the sins of the Son. And so, just as Christ says, if you break 1/10 of the law, it's as if you broke all of it. When Christ's church, which is His only method of salvation placed upon us in the world, we our human element blemish it and really deliberately blemish it. We allow the smoke of Satan to enter. Again, it makes sense that it's going to take God to opening a window and cracking it out. We're going to get caught up in that a little bit. And so I think, yeah, but I think that's a good take. I think if Catholics look at this like, instead of, because there's a lot of pride in the beginning. I noticed this, right? Oh, I think that there's a lot of people who obviously really don't want the mass ripped away. I think everyone wants that. But then everyone started talking about, well, how do we get it in other places?
Yeah,
What do
where
we
do we
need to
go?
do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, like, do we? There was, I mean, there are people out there now, fringe liberal theologians who are saying, well, you can conform your own bread and wine at home as a consecrated host, and the answer is
No,
no.
I can't.
No, you can't.
I mean, with
So,
God,
yeah, I mean,
God, anything is possible. But
yeah,
I don't have consecrated hands. I don't. I would never
nope,
even try it. Even if they said you can do it, I'm like, no. None of the
yeah, and
magisterium matches up to that. Like, why would even throw that stupid suggestion out?
there's a difference
Have you ever
between
seen
allowing
the
your
movie The Big Lebowski?
yeah.
All right, and you know Donnie, he's always popping into the conversations, and they're like, "Shut the f up, Donnie!" Like
Uh,
that's what I want to say to these guys. Like, what are you
Remember
talking
that,
about?
dude.
You're out of your element.
Doug's like, Donnie, you're out of your element.
Dude, you
Yeah.
mentioned windows earlier. You want to hear a window joke?
Oh yeah, yes, please.
All right. So what like one of those things that that was said about the Second Vatican Council was that they wanted to open up the windows, you know, to get the air into the church, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, you know what happens when you open up the windows, right?
What?
You let the bugs in. Bugnini. Bugnini.
Oh.
If you don't know who Bugnini is, look him up. You could thank him
Oh,
for
look him up.
you could thank him for
Bugnini.
yeah, Bugnini. So you could thank him for all the liturgical
You
reforms.
can thank him for the felt banners that they're hanging up apparently in sanctuaries
Hmm.
in live streams. You know. Mm-hmm.
Well, we got about 9 minutes left. How do we want to wrap this one up?
Yeah. So again, for everybody who is listening or
Oh, let's
not
take
listening this time,
questions.
they're
Let's take
watching.
questions.
That's right.
10
That's
minutes of
absolutely right. Let's go
questions.
see if
All
there's
right.
any questions. Scroll through and see if you can find some. While I do that, I'm going to remind everybody, thank you so much again for listening. We're going to be going for another 9 minutes. At 7 o'clock, there is Mass. I highly encourage you
I'll drop the
to
link.
watch and to participate. And that is going to be at livemass.net. All you need to do is go there, and about 5 minutes before Mass, just click the little play button, and it should have the stream nice and queued up. That's our church at St. Vitus you'll be seeing, and that's our priests.
Here's the link in the chat.
Yes, thank you. A link in the chat, as well as some F's in the chat, please.
Sorry. 1 sec.
Is that my social security number instead?
Yeah, it is.
This is also the time. If you haven't already, please go ahead and give us a like. The more likes that we have, the obviously the more the algorithm likes us. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe, because every little subscription and every little share, by the way, helps us grow our channel. Again, if we can get 100 subscribers, we can actually start doing community posts, which is really awesome. I also think that's what your darling fiance was talking about a couple days ago.
Yeah.
With 100, I suspect. We have a question, and I'll have you start with it. What has been your biggest spiritual fruit you've gotten out of quarantine?
The biggest spiritual fruit for me is morning and evening prayer. At the back of my missal, there's a section for the morning and a section for the evening. And it's the perfect way to start the day. It's let me get it, and I'll explain why. You keep talking.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'll go into mine while you kind of get that. I've two things have really done it. First off, just understanding God's, like, the gift of family and the gift of family time has been really important for me. Like, Jen and I have been spending more time together. I've been calling my family in Colorado a lot more, just interacting, playing, just being with each other and not having like distractions, and working from home also has allowed me to like kind of set a schedule that really reflects around family, which is really, really important. And and so that's been good. And then for my own spiritual reading, I'm still going through Imitation of Christ, and now alone in my house, there's a lot of time to really hit that, and I hit it a little bit before Mass a lot of times, and that gives me kind of the strength I need to see how God is working in my life that day.
Awesome. Yeah, so for the morning prayers, there's an act of faith, hope, charity, contrition, and it sets your day up to realize that you have to be vigilant of everything that you're doing, your thoughts, your words, everything that you're doing. So it sets you up perfectly, in this time of quarantine where we don't have the sacraments, where it's, oh, okay, well, all right, this is how I'm going to start my day, and this is how I'm going to continue the day. I'm going to try and stay on this path that the Lord provided. We have another question here. What's your favorite pipe tobacco? I can show you, Joel. It's a mix. This is my pipe tobacco that I would have on a desert island. If this is the only one that I could ever have for the rest of my life, Nat Sherman 314. If that wasn't my original pick, my second one is this, Eileen's Dream.
Hey.
It's got the shamrock on it. Love that Irish little flair there. Okay.
Very nice. I have two. One of them, I don't have the tin, but it was Dunhill. Now Dunhill's been bought by I can't remember.
Peterson.
Peterson, thank you.
Peterson.
But it was Dunhill's Morning Blend, and that was just a nice, really, really mild tobacco. And I kind of like milder tobacco, so that was really nice. And then you can't go wrong with some Captain Black cherry, which isn't overtly cherry, but man, this is one of the smoothest tobaccos. This is definitely a dessert tobacco, and it's just such an enjoyable smoke. So a bowl and a half of that, and that makes me completely happy. Where were you both baptized? I was baptized at St. Thomas Aquinas, which is a church in Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I know that recently because I had to get my baptismal stuff in order to get married.
I was baptized here in Los Angeles at this little chapel in downtown LA. What else do we have here? What's your take on the Crusader Catholics that want to rebel and the contemplative Catholics that are accepting our restrictions during this time? I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that eventually, if things keep going the way that they are, we're going to have to take up our sword a little bit.
I have a sword over here. Let's see if I got one over here.
I don't have one, but I have a gat. so I'll have that strapped on me.
I would say that in the beginning, I think it was harder to accept, definitely. And now I'm getting really cagey, which is true. And I might have an opportunity, plot twist, the moment my COVID-19 test comes back, which will be negative, God willing. I will have the opportunity to actually film the Mass, which is what I'm really looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it really is tough, but again, we have to be rooted in history and in prayer for this one too. Obedience is important. This isn't the first time in history that Masses have been shut, by the way. It wasn't as universal during 100 years ago at the Spanish Plague, but there were dioceses that did stop the Mass. So we do know that this has happened before, and it's just something that we have to just deal with. And it's what your parents say all the time: offer it up.
Yep.
Like, imagine how much purgatory time we can work off right now if we just go. It's like that meme. I don't like to do. It's from the Baltimore Catechism.
I don't like this,
I don't like
Jesus,
this, Lord, but do it for you.
but I'll do it for you. He's like eating
Yeah.
broccoli. It's like, dude, broccoli's good, man. What are you talking about?
Do you see there's that one meme that's like, Mama ain't raised no sedevacantist? That's what it is. Oh,
That's
send it. Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Again, in half an hour, Mass is starting at livemass.net. So please go ahead and do your soul and your church some good and check that out. This is awesome. I think that we'll be doing some more like kind of FaceTime stuff, some more quarantine lockdown stuff, definitely. And again, you can follow us on Twitter at GladTrad Podcast. You can also see our other podcasts where they're hosted, which is here on YouTube, of course. You can go to Buzzsprout, gladtradpodcast.buzzsprout.com. We're, of course, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, like everywhere a podcast is, you can see and hear more of our shows. Please go ahead and give this one a like. Please go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell if you'd be so kind. And don't forget to share this with Catholics or non-Catholics who are just hungry for some good content at this time in our history.
Yeah, we're new, so we have different hot takes, and if you're bored of all the other podcasters,
give us a spin.
We're trying to.
And if you have episode suggestions, I've been seeing people in the chat go ahead and give us really, really good suggestions. So please go ahead and send those our way too. You can just do that right on our Twitter at GladTrad Podcast, or you can even email us at gladtradpodcast@gmail.com. No problem. A lot of you actually have our personal info. He's Rudy Carlos. I'm Jordan Pacheco. So yeah, please continue to hit us up. This interaction is really, really awesome. So we really do appreciate you.
It's neat. Awesome. It's neat. Well, keep us in your prayers.
Yes.
We're all praying for you too. And we appreciate you. So
yeah, God bless you. May it keep you. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.